Hi again, and we will continue in lesson 2, the accident investigation and causes of accident and the documentation required throughout, because the accident is a major part of the safety in the organization. So the question you might get, it will say to you, list an accident cause, 4 immediate causes and 4 underlying causes, root cause. Here they will not tell you identify, because identifying you will just be very vague and it will not give the examiner reason that you understood what they want from this question. So if you get a question of this kind, the immediate causes, there are 4, like they asked, will be lack of caring. Lack of caring, it is about the attitude of the person involved in the accident, or meaning that this person knows what is to be done, knows the procedure, well trained, however, they don't care. They just don't care about the job and they don't care about consequences, so the result is an accident. For this particular part, I'm going to give you another answer that could come in another question. For example, lack of caring could be defined as negligence. So you will get another question asking you to give the meaning of negligence, which is a tort involving a breach of common law duty to take reasonable care. So 2 answers in one question. So lack of caring, you can tie it in for you to remember to gain 2 marks. All different question is, it is negligence. They know, but they decide to breach the law of caring. Then there is the lack of perception. Also, perception, you would get a question to ask you, give the meaning of perception. Perception is the way in which people interpret the environment of, or the way in which a person behave or understand a situation. In health and safety, the perception of hazard is an important factor. So, to give further meaning into this part, the perception, the person think that the danger behind the act he's doing or the environment he's working on is not as great as it is, basically underestimating the hazard. If you want a specific example, places you go everywhere, you walking in a mall and the cleaner is cleaning the floor using different slippery cleansing materials, and he has put the hazard sign that you should not walk here because of wet floor or floor under repair or floor under cleaning. But you underestimate the danger of your act and you want to go to a shop to cross the spot, so you would bypass the sign and cause yourself to an accident, which is slip and fall. So this is negligence, and at the same time, it is you perceive that you have a good shoes, you will not slip, or you are strong enough, etc. Same as at work, when you are working a grinder, you have to wear goggles, but you say, no, I would do without them, and then you cause injury to your eyes. So that is, you underestimate the damage that could happen following an act that you do. Then willful causes, on purpose. This is, again, it's to do with attitude, with the welfare. Nobody encourage people to willfully cause an accident, but it happens, and there are causes that it happens, and there are too many examples that these kinds of it happen. I try not to give you specific examples because people who watch me have different type of jobs. You think of your place and where you're working. People deliberately do things to get sick leave or to break a machine so they don't have to work, or they just wanted to get their job to be changed because they are bored of what they are doing. So deliberately they will make damage which appear that it is an instant accident, but in reality it is not. And the 4.1, lack of attention. The lack of attention is one of the causes of accidents, and this normally happens with people who has been doing the job for a very long time. There is repetitive work, they are too experienced in the job, it became boring to them, it became a routine. So lack of attention, this would cause it. The root causes or the hidden causes will be the management system failure. Remember the first video when we talked about the management system, which has a policy. The policy should have the management commitment, it should have objectives, it should have procedures, or some people call them standards, it should have supervisory, it should have training, should have auditing. So some companies, for internal or external reasons, bypass. They could have the standard, the safety standard, but they bypass, so there is lack of one or all component of a standard, which will result on them being causing an accident. Even there is a negative safety culture, and in an organization, this is one of the hidden causes. For example, the peer groups, people would laugh at you if you wear gloves, or if you wear goggles, or if you wear a helmet, and so on. So the culture there is to neglect safety. Also, there is another way of the target in the organization or in the division of the organization or within the worker or within their managers, is the target is maximum production. And this always comes when there is overtime involved or incentive in achieving a number of production item. So this will be put the priority of safety away. So the poor safety culture, because the culture is to earn more money or to get rewards or to be given to work overtime or promoted. And lack of safe system of work. There is no safe system of work. Now, safe system of work is could be the operating the machinery as per the manufacturer advice, having clear instruction on the machinery, there is no repetitive movement in a work, there are regular breaks, there is the environment in the workplace has to be reasonable in terms of lighting, heating, cooling, and air, oxygen, and the rest areas. So these all factors that goes under the lack of safe system work. Inadequate information, instruction, training, and supervision. So maybe you would get a young worker and you're not giving them any training, you just push them in the production line. Or you have somebody transferred from one division to another division at the same without adequate training, without induction, without hands-on training. There is also the possibility of introducing new machinery and no one bothered to read the instructions and fixing the safety barriers and the safety system in operation because they are just used to the old method of the old machinery. There is also change of standards. Sometimes a procedure to go into certain steps, then suddenly the business decide to change a procedure and they would work in another system while half of the staff are used to it, the other half are not used to it. So this would cause also the accident. Supervision is very important. It's the type of supervision and safety is making sure you're doing the right thing so you do not harm yourself or the environment or other workers or the equipment or the plant. So the supervision will be like a watch eye for you to make sure you're doing the right thing. And most of which also the training. Training here is very important. If you are well trained, examined, and all your concerns and questions are answered, so you would be comfortable to go to a workplace with minimizing the risk of accident. The next question relating to accident would be information in an accident investigation report. You will be asked to list here or to identify information that are required for and to be listed in an accident investigation report. Of course, the date of the accident and the date of the investigation, then the time of both, location of the accident, injured persons, their names and their designation and which department, who do they report to, the witnesses, the people who have seen the accident or have observed or have been told by a reliable source about the accident. They can give a realistic, honest statement. Injuries, loss sustained. You have to make records. Number of people injured, the degree of injury. Maybe you would attach the medical report and the losses suffered. Losses suffered. Now here involve the equipment loss, the tools, etc. Also the equipment and tools involved in the accident. You are in a factory. What was the cause of the accident? Which equipment were involved? Which tools? Was he using the grinding machine? Was he using the electric saw machine? Was he using the machinery or the drill or the bread making machine? So you have to be specific here. Cost estimated if known. So you would put the estimated cost. Now we are talking all kind of cost. Remember, they will ask you the cost of accidents, which is the lost time, the lost time of people involved in the accident, the management and people involved in the investigation, the loss of raw material, the loss of reputation, etc. But these ones, remember, we are not talking here about what is covered, what is not covered in an insurance policy. We are talking in general all the losses that involved in the accident. Who investigated? So the name of the investigation team, depending on the size of the accident. Sometimes you would need groups to finish the investigation in a reasonable time. Sometimes it's just one person, sometimes it's two. So who was involved in the accident and who interviewed which person? Introduction. There is to be an introduction. Remember, witnesses, although they know they are witness, they are not in a comfortable place because it could be their first time to give a statement. They could be scared to be blamed because they are part of the department. So the opening statement is to put them at ease, and the purpose of the investigation has to be written in the report. Then the summary. The summary, meaning the conclusion. You have had your opening, you had your introduction, you said why you are doing the purpose of the investigation, you have said where it took place, etc. Now you have to put the summary. Basically, remember, it's a very important factor that you do not express your opinion, and it is not your job as investigator to find the wrong and right or to put blame. It's your job to find the truth and to simplify it with all honesty to make sure that measures are put in place to avoid repeating of such tragedy. Then after the summary, the report would have the main body, observations, legal breaches, likelihood, information, and informant action. So the body of the report would be the observation, the legal breach. For example, you would say your observation of the accident, that the fire was not put out on time because there are no fire extinguishers at the place, or the fire extinguishers didn't work. So the breach of the law here in a country, maybe it's a requirement that the fire extinguisher to be tested and certified every 6 months, while this has been expired for 2 years. So you have to point out this part in your report. Then your recommendation. Now your recommendation, try not to put them on individuals, like disciplinary action for this one and termination, etc. Because remember, you are a safety investigation team and you are not an HR specialist. So your recommendation would be here to try to find solutions to prevent repetitive of such a tragedy. Then conclusion and circulation list. So you will conclude your report by closing remarks, like, for example, the investigation require a longer time because the main personnel involved are still under surgery or under intensive care, so you could not get all the answers you wanted. Or you could say that the case is closed, be considered closed, because all the evidence are sufficient to come to a conclusion and close the case. Then the distribution list. Of course, in an organization with a standard, there is always a system of who should this report distributed to. For example, some things relating to the reputation of the manufacturer or the organization need the authority of senior managers to be released. Some could be generic, that could be released and could be put out for everybody to see. So the distribution list could have more than one group to see different parts of the report. The question now we'll ask before we close. Actually, we're reaching the 20 minutes. Like I promised first, I will stick the courses to the lessons for 20 minutes. It will be enough for this part, and later we will start another lesson with another topic. I hope this was beneficial. Bear with me as we go on. Hopefully there will be improvement and more examples will be given. And like I said, I'm open for suggestion and remarks and information, and correction also welcome. Thank you.